Have you ever paused to wonder why certain women, without uttering a single word, can completely capture a man's attention? It's not their physical appearance, nor the things they say, and it's certainly not something they can fake or force into existence. It's something far more subtle, something that hangs in the air like a quiet signal, sensed by him, though he could never explain why. From Carl Gustav Jung's deep psychological lens, what we fail to make conscious within ourselves will inevitably manifest in our relationships. We don't love in ways that are rational or carefully controlled. It's our unconscious world, the most profound layers of our psyche, that form the roots of real connection. And often, it's the quietest expressions, the ones we don't prepare or even notice, that leave the most lasting imprint. True attraction doesn't come from well-crafted words or overt gestures. It rises from an invisible current that radiates through us. Tiny movements, subtle postures, and moments of silence, these touch something unspoken in another. Because what binds us isn't just what we deliberately present, it's what we unknowingly transmit. That magnetic, wordless pull, something inexplicable, draws us in without conscious reason. And that's exactly where we're going today. We're diving into 8 unspoken attitudes often overlooked that carry immense magnetic force. Attitudes that don't require speech to be understood, that can't be mastered through techniques or mimicry. They emerge only when you begin to reconnect with your authentic energy. So, are you ready to see your silence through a new lens? Then take a deep breath, because from this moment forward, you may begin to realize true magnetism doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It's felt, lived, radiated from the depths of your unconscious. True attraction doesn't always announce itself with words or obvious action. In Jungian depth psychology, we learn that what we project onto others is shaped by our unconscious patterns, by inner energies sensed beyond the surface. If these words touch something deep within you, linger here. Subscribe to the channel where unspoken truths are heard and connection transcends words. One of the most powerful of these invisible energies is the ability to simply be present without trying to occupy space. The silent presence. A woman who simply is, without effort, without inner agitation, without craving attention, she emits a resonance that touches something unspoken. She doesn't feel the need to fill a room with chatter or to decorate her presence with exaggerated gestures. Her stillness speaks louder than noise. Her quiet presence whispers, "I am here, and I am enough." Jung emphasized that the unconscious in others picks up not only on what it desires, but also what it fears. Silent presence activates ancient internal memories. It awakens archetypal images, stability, trust, emotional safety. When someone is truly present, they don't need to declare themselves. Their internal state shifts the entire energy of the space. The collective unconscious feels it, even if the conscious mind can't explain it. This type of presence isn't born from control. It rises from inner reconciliation, from a woman who fully inhabits herself, both her light and her shadow. In a world drenched in constant noise and stimulation, this kind of quiet presence becomes a rare sanctuary. It becomes a haven for those weary of the superficial, a living reminder that there are still places where the soul can exhale. Pause here and reflect. Do you allow yourself to fully inhabit a moment in stillness? Or do you often feel compelled to do something, just to feel worthy of being seen? And even though authentic presence quietly shifts the entire atmosphere, it's often the smallest gestures, almost invisible, that reach the deepest places in another. The symbolic smile. In the unseen terrain of human connection, These micro-gestures speak a language that the rational mind barely grasps. According to Jung, a significant portion of our communication takes place through symbols, imagery, subtle actions through micro-expressions that bypass logical analysis and go straight to the heart. A smile genuine, not rehearsed, not manufactured to please, is one such silent symbol. A smile that keeps secrets, that doesn't offer itself entirely, that hints at a rich, mysterious inner world waiting to be uncovered. When a woman smiles this way, not to impress, not to manipulate, but as an honest reflection of her inner life, her presence becomes almost hypnotic. It's not about charming others. It's about allowing real, quiet joy to surface without explanation. A deep, internal connection to oneself made visible. In the Jungian view, the unconscious is always drawn toward what fosters psychic growth. A mysterious smile becomes a living portal, a threshold into something vaster, something that can't be owned, defined, or captured. The conscious mind seeks clarity, but the unconscious longs for opening spaces where curiosity and discovery can roam free. And it is within that kind of smile, not loud, not obvious, but hinting at infinite emotional landscapes, that one of the most powerful magnetic forces is born. So ask yourself sincerely, does your smile rise from inner contentment, or has it become an automatic habit, a reflex chasing approval? Because if a smile alone can stir something in another's soul, just imagine the impact of a gaze, one that doesn't flinch, doesn't escape, one that reaches across the silence and connects. The gaze that sees. There are glances that simply graze the surface. And then there are those that silently slip through the cracks of the persona, piercing straight into something ancient, something real. From Jung's perspective, the unconscious is endlessly projecting itself onto others. We rarely see people as they are. We see the parts of ourselves our psyche has activated in them. And the gaze is one of the most potent channels for this exchange. A steady, unhurried, sincere gaze is not just eye contact. It's a doorway, a wordless invitation. I am here. I see you. Can you bear to truly see yourself too? When a woman holds her gaze with neither fear nor demand, she emanates something that surpasses understanding. She transmits a field, an atmosphere, an unwavering presence. Jung said the unconscious picks up not only on our desires, but on our deepest fears. That's why a gaze unguarded by masks or armor can be revolutionary. It can evoke attraction, it can stir discomfort, or ignite a hunger for connection too long denied. Because a gaze like that says you can stay present, even in your rawness, even in your trembling truth. You don't have to run from the moment. You don't need to hide. And this kind of silent bravery, this quiet willingness to be seen, moves in ways words never could. Now ask yourself honestly, do you allow yourself to be fully seen, or do you sometimes look away, not to protect the other, but to protect yourself? Because while a real gaze can form instant intimacy, there is something even more subtle, even more sacred. We don't perceive others as they truly are. Instead, we see them through the lens of what our own psyche activates in them. And among the many pathways through which this process unfolds, the gaze remains one of the most direct and revealing. A gaze that is calm, sincere, and sustained, not rushed or restless, is so much more than simple eye contact. It becomes a doorway, a quiet invitation whispered without sound. I am present. I see you. Can you bear to see yourself too? When a woman meets the gaze of another without fear, without expectation or demand, she transmits something far beyond the bounds of logic. She radiates a field of presence, one laced with openness, quiet strength, and deep-rooted courage. Jung taught that the unconscious in others is attuned not only to its desires, but also to its fears, and that is why a gaze, stripped of all masks and defense, becomes such a powerful and even unsettling act. It can spark attraction, it can surface discomfort, it can awaken a profound longing for connection long buried beneath noise. Because such a gaze tells the other you can remain with yourself, even when you're vulnerable. You don't have to run from this moment. And this kind of quiet bravery reaches places that words can never touch. So ask yourself honestly, do you truly allow yourself to see and to be seen? Or do you sometimes feel the need to avert your eyes, not to protect them, but to shield your own truth? And while a real gaze can open doors to instant intimacy, there exists something even more tender, more intricate, the way you reveal your vulnerability without turning it into an unspoken plea for saving. Quiet vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is, in fact, one of the deepest and clearest expressions of inner strength. From Carl Jung's psychological insights, we know that what we suppress in the unconscious doesn't vanish. It seeps out through our relationships, through our patterns of attachment, and through the loops we find ourselves repeating. When a woman dares to embrace her vulnerability without dramatizing it, without making it into a silent cry for attention, she sends a signal to the unconscious of another. I am capable of holding my own humanity. Real vulnerability does not stem from the desperation to be rescued. It emerges from the courage to be fully seen without performance, without justification, and without pretense. When you allow your real emotions to be visible, not amplified for effect, and not silenced for safety, you offer something rare. You offer a mirror that reflects what it means to truly inhabit oneself. Jung once said that what we fail to accept in ourselves ends up seeking healing through others. But when our vulnerability arises from a foundation of self-acceptance, the connection it generates is honest. It is rooted. It is real. You don't need to beg for love. You don't have to dramatize your pain. You only need to permit yourself to be whole, even in all your imperfection. So pause and ask yourself, do you allow your real humanity to be seen? Or does your vulnerability sometimes morph into a silent request to be noticed, to be validated? When vulnerability is given as a quiet offering rather than a hidden demand, it opens an even deeper space, a sacred one, a space where mystery is allowed to breathe, and where connection isn't forced, but allowed to live. The archetype of mystery. In a world that endlessly promotes itself, mystery has become something rare, something quietly magnetic. Through the lens of Jung's psychology, it's the symbols that aren't fully explained, the images that remain partially veiled, that have the greatest power to awaken our imagination and stir the unconscious. The human spirit doesn't just hunger for what it already understands. It yearns for what it senses. It longs for what whispers of hidden meaning, for what suggests, rather than shows. A woman who doesn't immediately expose every corner of her inner world, who reveals only to those who prove worthy, creates a form of attraction that cannot be copied. It cannot be faked. Mystery isn't a tactic. It's not a seduction strategy. It is the natural fragrance of a soul that knows its worth, one that understands not every part of her is meant for everyone. In Jungian psychology, mystery functions as an archetypal force, a symbolic gateway. It doesn't reject others. Instead, it invites them into a deeper process of discovery. It stirs the desire not just to know a person, but to journey into an entire inner world. Those who don't expose everything all at once allow the bond to deepen gradually. They let connection grow layer by layer, each one adding meaning and richness, a presence that holds something back gently. naturally keeps the flame of curiosity and longing alive. So now I ask you, do you preserve sacred spaces of mystery within yourself? Or do you sometimes feel the pressure to expose everything too quickly just to be understood? And even beyond the quiet power of mystery, there exists a force more solid, more grounding, a silent stability, the kind that only comes when someone has fully learned to dwell in their own worth. Grounded confidence. There is a strength so subtle it goes unseen. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't assert itself. It never begs for reassurance. It simply is. According to Jung's depth psychology, this kind of inner stability arises from the process of individuation. It is not the result of trying to prove oneself. It is the fruit of reconciling deeply with who you are. A woman who moves, speaks, and breathes with this quiet confidence does not need to explain her existence. She does not need to perform her value. Her presence alone defines boundaries. It commands respect. It draws connection without seeking it. Jung taught that integrated energy that has been made whole is felt on a level deeper than words. People don't understand it logically. They sense it. True confidence isn't declared. It is shown in the way you enter a room, in the way you say no with peace, in the way you remain centered even when others expect you to bend. When you are anchored in your own sense of worth, there's no need to chase, no urge to demand, no reason to over-explain. You simply exist, and that grounded authenticity becomes a quiet light, recognizable only to those ready to see it. So reflect for a moment. Where does your sense of safety and security come from? Is it fueled by the need to be acknowledged by others, or does it rise from a deep-rooted connection with your true self? And when that security is no longer something you perform, when it becomes second nature, a brighter flame begins to glow. Authenticity, one that doesn't need to be spoken to, be real. It is already felt, already known, already enough. Living authentically. In a society that fixates on image, on outward appearances and performative identity, living authentically has quietly become an act of resistance. From Carl Jung's deep psychological framework, we learn that each of us exists in constant inner tension between our true self and the persona we craft to fit in. The persona being that mask we wear to be accepted, but the self, the inner essence, remains ever longing for congruence. A woman who lives from her true self radiates a genuineness that cannot be staged. She does not need to declare her independence. She doesn't parade her strength. She doesn't dramatize her emotional life to be perceived. She simply inhabits her own truth. She lives in it. Breathe through it. Jung reminded us that individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, isn't about discarding the persona altogether. It's about not mistaking it for our real identity. To be authentic is to recognize the precise moment when we're acting out of adaptation, then make the conscious choice to return inward, to our center. When a woman grants herself permission to be exactly as she is, imperfect, unfinished, profound, without apology, without justification, and without playing a role, she releases a vibration that speaks directly to the unconscious, the unmistakable energy of someone who has stopped fighting herself. This stillness, this organic rhythm, this inner harmony becomes a magnetism that cannot be replicated. It cannot be taught, and it cannot be performed. So I ask you gently, do you live from that core essence within, or do you find yourself slipping into roles, ones you've been conditioned to believe are necessary? And once authenticity is no longer something you strive for, but something you embody effortlessly, another silent posture emerges, one that not only attracts, but quietly protects your soul. The peaceful exit, It is the ability to withdraw, softly, without noise, without seeking explanation, without guilt. Because not everything sacred is meant to stay. Sometimes, the deepest form of protection comes in knowing when to walk away. From the lens of Jungian depth psychology, individuation is not a single event. It's an ongoing practice, a lived discernment of what nourishes and what drains, of what calls you forward and what holds you back. A woman who steps away from spaces that no longer reflect her inner truth is not escaping. She is not punishing. She is simply choosing herself. And the quiet exit, the wordless departure, it's not coldness. It is an act of profound self-respect, of fierce self-love. It is the recognition that our greatest loyalty must be to our own growth, not to a connection that stunts the unfolding of our soul. Jung said it clearly. What we do not make conscious controls our lives, and we call it fate. To remain in a relationship, a role, or a space that no longer echoes our essence is to surrender our agency to the shadow. But withdrawal, when done with clarity and peace, becomes a conscious declaration. It is an honoring of life cycles, a trust in timing, a reverence for what's next. It's the belief that leaving what no longer aligns will open unseen doors, doors that lead to spaces more resonant with who we truly are becoming. When a woman leaves quietly without blame, without bitterness, her energy does not shrink. It expands. And paradoxically, she becomes even more unforgettable. So reflect deeply. Do you know how to walk away in peace when a space no longer honors your soul? Or do you find yourself clinging, hoping that someone else's recognition will affirm your worth? Because within every silent gesture, whether it's staying, gazing, smiling, speaking one's truth, or letting go there, pulses a deeper current, an invisible truth that it is the unconscious force within us which weaves the connections that truly matter. Maybe now, as you've journeyed through these reflections, you recognize something that was quietly present all along. That true attraction does not emerge from striving. It's not staged. It's not manufactured. It is born from your relationship with yourself, from the quiet reverence you extend to your own energy, from the grounded peace of living your truth even when no one is watching. As Carl Jung taught, what we do not make conscious will return again and again disguised as destiny. And it is our most unspoken postures, those we rarely even notice, that reach deepest into the unconscious of another. The lingering gaze, the smile that guards mystery, the vulnerability that doesn't ask, the mystery that doesn't unravel, the security that needs no validation, the authenticity that doesn't perform, the retreat that doesn't retaliate. Each gesture, each silence, each breath is an expression of your unconscious energy in motion. And this energy, it can't be faked. It can't be memorized. It doesn't come from a guidebook. It awakens within you through the decision to stop chasing love and to begin embodying it from within. This is how a connection is born, not superficial, not transactional, not fleeting, but one that resonates on invisible levels, and precisely because of that, leaves marks that never fade. So I ask you, from a softer place, which of these silent attitudes already live within you, and which one stirs in you the invitation to expand even more into your quiet power? Let me know in the comments. Because perhaps the first real act of connection isn't about seeking another, but about remembering yourself and letting your essence speak, even when you say nothing. If this journey has stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel and keep exploring the depths of the unconscious ocean with me.